friends. Okay. Thank you for coming out. It's nice to be out for a happy occasion these days. We don't have too many of those. And to acknowledge and celebrate a great day in our nation's history. I want to thank Valerie Jo Bradley and the staff of Save Harlem Now, Mayor Eric Adams and his staff, especially Community Affairs Advisor Patrick Kwan, State Senator Claire, and Lisa Krasavage from the Landmarks Preservation Committee. I also want to thank the Kilgore family for sharing Reverend Thomas Kilgore with us and for continuing to carry on his spirit and devotion to service. Bayard always spoke very highly of Reverend Kilgore, and it was for that reason that he was invited to officiate at the memorial service held for Bayard in October of 1987. On the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, there is a plaque that indicates the spot where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King stood when he spoke at the March on Washington. That is all well and good. But I want to tell you, if it were not for the weeks of work that took place in this humble building behind me, that march would not have been possible. Think of a hot summer, working in a 4-story walk-up, no elevator, no air conditioning, and managing to pull together the miracle that took place on August 28, 1963. This is where it happened. Typewriters, mimeograph machines, telephones. Remember landlines, folks? No computers, no faxes, no cell phones. This is where the press came, where the marshals came, were trained, where the mailings were assembled, and where so much of the transportation was coordinated. And fortunately, sometimes contributions came here too. Occasionally there were meetings at Mr. Randolph's office on 125th Street and sometimes down at Bayard's apartment on West 28th Street, but this was March Central. What made it happen were the talented and enthusiastic young people under the guidance of 2 inspiring leaders, A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin. Some of you may have seen the articles that were in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and yesterday our own Mayor Eric Adams had a fine op-ed column about this headquarters in the march in the Daily News. Some of the articles talked to some of the people who had worked in this building: Eleanor Holmes Norton, Rochelle Horowitz, Joyce Ladner, Cortland Cox, Patricia Worthy, and Norm and Velma Hill. Most of these folks now reside in Washington, but we are lucky to be joined today by Norm Hill and Elliot Linzer, who worked at the March office. And we are also fortunate to have with us Marcia Young Cantarella, the daughter of Whitney M. Young, the late head of the National Urban League, who was one of the big 6 civil rights leaders who led and spoke at the march. Folks, we live in a time when forces are trying to erase history and rewrite it to conform to an inaccurate vision of what our country was and is. It is our job to see that that doesn't happen and to correct the misrepresentations of the past. For a long time, Bayard was marginalized because of his radical politics and because he was unashamedly gay. A number of biographies and films have helped bring him from the shadows and grant him the recognition he deserves. Just today, a new book, More Than a Dream, The Radical March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom by Uhura Williams and Michael Long, has been published. Norm and Velma Hill have a memoir coming out in October, Climbing the Rough Side of the Mountain, recounting their decades of working for civil rights and equality. But I would be derelict if I did not acknowledge the groundbreaking work of Jervis Anderson and Jim Haskins, who were the first to publish books that recognized the breadth of Bayard's contributions to our democracy, as well as his personal courage and integrity to live a life of authenticity and truth. Lastly, but certainly not least, former President and Mrs. Obama's production company, Higher Ground, will be releasing a feature film, Rustin, on November 4th, which tells the story of Bayard's leadership in making the March on Washington happen. Starring Coleman Domingo, Audra McDonald, Glenn Turman, and Chris Rock, It is a gripping and moving film that celebrates the work that took place on these grounds and the triumph that resulted in Washington. As we like to say now, I hope this event and marker will encourage you to do a deeper dive into the history of what happened here and to carry on and build on the progress we've made. Thank you.
We're going to go out of order a little bit because you all saw him walk in. Your staff ain't going to get me. Thank you, though. I just want to recognize, I see Assemblyman Reverend Al Taylor here with us today. And I want to say this, too. From the moment I contacted the mayor's office, they have been extremely supportive isn't even the word. It's not even the word. Their response to this, we had to get this street closed down. We had to get a permit. We had to see if we could put it on the building. I mean, there was so much involved. You'd think it's just a little simple thing, right? No, there's a permit for everything in this city. And they were just wonderful. Commissioner Carry On, thank you. Thank you so much from HPD. We appreciate you. And I see the deputy, our own Sheena Wright. All right. Her mother got me some time too. But I thank you so much for your commitment and your dedication. And I'm going to say my name for him because this time, Cordell Clear. Senator Cordell Clear. But I'd like you to come on up, Mayor, please. And thank you.
I remember when Sister Claire was working for then Bill Perkins, and I had to go do a meeting for her, and I walked in the room, and I said, "Sister, your skin is definitely kissed by the sun, and it blessed us all." There isn't a challenging permit process for everything in the city. The challenge comes when we want to do something. And what First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright and I and our entire team and our analysis, whenever we wanted to do a parade, it was a challenge. Whenever we wanted to do some form of festivity, it was a challenge. When we went to put a sign on a building, there was a challenge. There was always a challenge. And people can be theoretical on why we can't do something. How about being practical on why we can't do something? We got to make these things happen in our community because our community, we have often been sidelined on so many levels. You know, communities have been locked out. The Japanese community could not have a parade on the street. They had to march in the park. And we said that's not happening anymore. If something simple as flag raising, cities were not allowed to appreciate all that government was supposed to do for the people of cities. And there was just a different city. Some were able to just seamlessly go through the process and get whatever they want done when they want to do it. But whenever folks from the outer boroughs or from Harlem, from the Bronx and other areas, it was always a challenge. Not in this administration. It's one city, one process, one way, and we wanted to make this happen. We had an amazing senator as a partner. And getting it done. And thank you, Valerie Jo Bradley and Save Harlem Now, 60 years later. There's so many stories that come out of the March on Washington that I believe people don't know. One of them that was inspiring for me, around the front and the side of the March on Washington were people like Clarence Surgeon, one of the longest standing first grade detectives in the Transit Bureau at the time. And he shared the story with me, with him and Bill Ben Patton and others, how the Guardians Association was there in Washington. The Black Police Fraternal Organization was there in Washington to protect Dr. King, Brother Rustin, Brother the other leaders who came together. They played a significant role for me when I became a Guardian Association, chairman of the Guardian as a police officer. And when Reverend R. Sharpton's life was threatened, black police officers stood up and said, we are going to be there and protect Reverend Sharpton during those most difficult times. He and his family, his 2 daughters, who we were there to provide that protection for. And they inspired me. And that moment was significant. But today's day, 60 years later, is significant because it is saying something. The grandest of ideas do not take place in the grandest of places. It takes place in the basements, in the hall, in the small church environments. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. And when people are able to go in these small spaces, you know, this march was dealing with housing, was dealing with jobs, was dealing with economic recovery, was dealing with employment. Does that sound familiar? So we had the Rustins of yesteryears. We had the Dr. Kings of yesteryears. We had all those leaders who were meeting to move the conversation forward. So 60 years later, the question becomes, we still need the Rustins of today. We still need the Dr. Kings of today. We must still meet in these basements to get things done. And let's be clear on this. During the time when Dr. King was pricking the consciousness of America, they were not treating them kind. Let's not all of a sudden romanticize and have a false impression of what was happening. Go look at some of those articles back then. Go look at how they treated Dr. King and what he was trying to do. So yes, everybody's celebrating him now. Everybody's talking about the March on Washington. But go back and Google some of those articles and how Dr. King was treated. And then you're going to fast forward and say, wait a minute, were they talking about Dr. King or was they talking about Hakeem Jeffries, who was the minority leader in Congress? Are they talking about Andrew Stewart Cousin? Are they talking about Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright or Deputy Mayor Williams Isom? Who are they talking about? If you fast forward today, if we don't control our narrative, someone else will control our narrative. And that is why it's important when you have a senator like Claudette Clear holding down.
You're going to say this right today. Cordell
Clear. You know, I'm always doing a number on her name. When you have her doing what she's doing in Harlem, Senator Clear has really led in a very significant way in Harlem. It comes from the ground up. And that's the message today. And that's why this was so important to do this plaque naming. And she understood it. So when folks walk past here, they would see this and it would inspire them. It inspired me as a child, looking with mom and dad, sitting down on the couch, watching that period of time. It impacted us watching Brownsville burn the day that Dr. King was assassinated. It impacted all of us. We were all traumatized, and we continue to live through that traumatization. And so as we place this plaque, let's renew our spirits of today's time. We have so many challenges in front of us, but we can overcome if we do it together. And if we unify around a sense of purpose, believe keep God at the center of our lives and stay true to our mission and stay focused on what we have to do. So, Senator, I thank you for being a visionary, and I thank the entire team for making it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you stay right here with me because we are going to do the unveiling out of order, out of respect for the mayor's schedule. But there's some people here I really have to mention, and if I don't call your name, just tell me. But I got to say this, and starting with the mayor's office, Tiffany Brown, who's always here. Where are you, Tiffany? Always with us, always. David Johnson, please don't block my calls. You see, I'm doing this, right? So when I need you again, remember I did this. No, thank you, always. A son of Harlem, always here with us. Thank you. We love you. I want to talk, Dawn Jones, Nan, you're here. Thank you, Dawn. My dear friend, and such a knowledgeable gentleman, passionate. You either like him or you don't. Michael Henry Adams. And I like him. Thank you. He keeps us together on that history. Thank you so much. Hold on, I'm coming. Very good. That's his job. 857. 857 Riverside Drive.
Yeah, but I love it. And the way to do it is just, hit me on my cell phone and ask me. You don't have to wait for this. Everybody has my number. Just reach out and say, brothers, we wanna accomplish the task, and let's sit down, let's navigate and make it happen. We are trying to GSD, get stuff done. That's all you have to do, brother. Just ask. Here's the rule in this administration. I follow the law, but I make policy. If it's within my strength to do it, I'm going to do it. I follow the law, but I make policy. And so let's sit down and figure out how to get this done. And if it's within policy, we're going to get it done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's so important, Michael. 857 Riverside Drive was a site of the Underground Railroad. Yeah, so we have to protect that. Been working on that. Queen Mother's here with us. Dolores Blakely, good to see you. And we have Curtis Young with the Public Advocate's Office, the one and only Arva Rice from the New York Urban League. And we got Mr. Kevin Matthews from the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. Where's Kevin? Okay, I see you. Aisha Sekou, our dear family member, Street Corner Resources, out here helping us get this done. Always out here, on the ground. Kareem Hudson. And I mentioned Assemblyman Al Taylor earlier, a woman who I have a great deal of respect for and admiration, Miss Roberta Washington, an architect. Yes, yes. Miss Peg Breen from the Landmark Conservancy, thank you so much for being here. And Marta Gutman, Dean Spitzer of, School of Anthropology, City College. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry, I had it wrong. Marta Gutman, I'm sorry. Gutman, okay. We have Hazel Dukes. Everybody know Hazel Dukes. NAACP. And I have to shout out my local precinct here, Captain Yakatali and the 32nd Precinct. In a matter of minutes, they made it happen. Thank you. Y'all are always there, always supportive, and we appreciate you for that. Thank you so much. You're great partners, Detective Collado and all the others who have helped us. Officer Pinnock, are you here? Okay. Oh, Detective, I'm sorry. Detective Pinnock. Yeah, okay, come on. And right here, just walked in, a great part of our Harlem history, the Imam of the historic Malcolm Shabazz Masjid. Thank you for coming and joining us right on time. And there's so many others that are out here today, and I know you'll tell me. I know you'll tell me you were here. But we're going to move on with the unveiling of this beautiful plaque that is going to be installed by HPD. We're not going to install it today because they want to make sure it's done correctly and it's done, where it stays up there and it's in a prominent space. But we have it here for you to see, thanks to Valerie Jo Bradley and Save Harlem Now. So we'd like to, will you join Valerie in the unveiling, Mayor? I'm coming. Always telling me what to do. Okay, we'll do. Okay. Yeah, have a seat.